I'm Captain Scouse. As you can probably tell, you can see it in the background. There's a lot of comic stuff here, a lot of things. So if you're a big Marvel, DC fan, you'll love today's stream. You will. So today, what are we doing today? So today, there's a lot of stuff we're doing today. We are actually going to be reviewing quite a few comics. We've got 5 comics to review today. For those who remember my last stream from probably episode 5, I originally did one based on, or was it episode 3? I can't remember. It's one of the episodes before where I reviewed one from the 1960s of an original Jim Stecreco comic, in which he originally said to me in a tweet that issue 5 was going to be issue 1. Because he had an argument with Stan Lee and Stan Lee didn't like it, he moved it to issue 5. So this is a comic, this comic, which is a variant strain, it is Volume 1, Issue 6. It's a Johnson and Stecreco variation from November 2007. Now this only went for 6 issues, and this is Issue 6 of Variant Strain. So this comic itself is based on Mission 6, Like Father, Like Son. Fury's blood contains a powerful Infinity Formula serum that slows his age down, but it is a very young Nick Fury training and skills that make him indispensable for high-stakes solo missions, requiring quick thinking and precise action. So this is to do with a mission they had at the end of this comic, and it's the end of the series of the comic this is, where they return to Ravenlock Cape Castle in Scotland, in which Nick Fury Jr., which we'll call him, which is the modern Nick Fury, with Rachel McGregor, who is blind, they go around solving this sort of murder at this castle where Rachel lives at. So he's escorting her back, and as he's returning to the castle, he gets attacked outside the grounds by some LMDs. For those who know about Agents of Fury, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you'll know about LMDs in Season 4 of the TV show, and where they sort of created these robots to look like things. But these were to do with hellhounds. But how they managed to make these LMD hellhounds is amazing in this comic sort of thing. So anyway, they've done that. He ends up destroying the LMDs, and he discovers a Hydra enclave underneath parts of the area near the castle. After destroying the LMDs, he discovers Frankie Noble and agents of Hydra, who he then fights, causing a collapse around him. So they have a bit of discussion about Rachel at the time during this sort of comic. And basically, as they're fighting, he ends up, doing what he can. This young, it's all to do with the young Nick Fury. This bit, you don't see the older Nick Fury in this comic, but basically, he comes out and the whole cave just collapses in him, all the area. So as it's collapsing, you just see him at the end of the comic coming out of the area and sort of coming up. His fist coming out the actual rubble. And he's sort of pulling himself out, he's dragging himself out, and then you see him sort of overlooking the whole area, surveying it. But yeah, I like that. It's not often you get a modern Nick Fury comic, and I think this is what they were aiming at, comparing it to the old Nick Fury comics in the 60s to the modern day. I'm not sure if it's a rewrite of an old one, but it's nice. You've got the Agents of Hydra in it, Frankie Noble's in it, you got LMDs, so there's a lot of relations and a lot of connections to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show in a way like that. Now, this is to do with Adventures Supergirl, and I got this confused with the more modern Supergirl ones that we've had recently we're reviewing. We reviewed one last time, which, for me, as I said, it sounded a lot like the TV shows. What I forget is, it's a bit like the Amazing Spider-Man in Marvel. They've got 2 different type of versions. You're not sure if one's on the TV and the other one isn't. But for me, both of them feel like they're both on the TV. But apparently, this is the official one based on the hit CBS series one. So this is, hang on, let me find the information for you guys. It is Adventures of Supergirl, Volume 1, Issue 2. This is from July 2016. And they only did 6 issues of this comic. So it's basically set in National City. Starting off with Supergirl fighting some crooks in the area as a backflash. Then it goes to Kara being undercover mode. It's typical sort of start of a TV show I've been watching. I think I've been watching Season 2. Finished watching Season 1. Watched Season 2 where Superman appears for a bit, and now it's gone on to the middle of Season 2 in a way from me. in that. So this is a bit of okay familiarity to the TV show. So she goes back into undercover mode where Win is getting arrested by a SWAT team in their office, which is a bit okay. Then I missed something in volume one, in issue one somewhere there. You know, you sort of think. So she decides to go and investigate what the police want with Win. So this is what this comic's about. This sort of issue. With Kara saying that all Win did was to spend some of his time playing in World of Warcraft sort of thing. So it's like, he's a gamer. Why is he, doing it? I've not seen much of Win because I'm still sort of getting my head around season 2. So hopefully, I'll get to understand it a bit more of it in the TV shows to the comics. So I'm getting pretty new at looking at Supergirl a bit more better. So as they're sort of investigating all this, they notice that they might want him over something called the doxing. And they find out that Win has a virtual helper called Virgil. So I think that's where it's all down to the comics, to the TV shows and things like that. Like I said, I'll find out more in the TV shows what goes on and see if there's any linking with it all. But it could just be just the comic book variation of it all. But apparently this new virtual helper, Virgil, allows them to hack into the SWAT van, and then they sort of see from the CCTV cameras in the actual SWAT van of Win. So once they've seen it, she turns into Supergirl again and goes after to rescue Win. However, there's something else that's watching her. Virgil's real identity, which is Quirrell Dox in it, whose real target is Kara herself. So there's a lot of that going on in this comic, and it's nice to sort of relate it to the TV shows in that sort of way, especially from what I've been watching so far. After dropping off Win at the safe house, she goes after James and finds out that Virgil has himself and Kara uploads of Trojan horses to Dox, so to blast it away and freeing James from his computer. So basically, James is all tied up and he's sort of unresponsive when Kara goes to see him, and he's like tied up like a zombie wise because of the computer and that. So they have to sort of upload a Trojan horse to the computers and things like that to sort of snap him out of it. At the same time, Dox is threatening to out Kara, her real identity as well. So this is what's going on in this comic. So she starts fighting him until she captures him. So that's towards the end of this comic. It's really good. So the Uncanny Avengers is a Stenenko cover again. Now, we're going to go back into a bit of history with him now. When he was a fan of Captain America's Legacy back in the days, he did about 3 covers for Marvel back in the late... Apparently, he says the late 1968. But I think it's going to be later on than that. But he also did do the death of Captain America as well. Later on in the first volume. So that's something I want to keep up. But of course, they keep republishing that. So he's done that. He's also said he did 12 variant covers for Captain America in 2016. And I think this is one of them. This has to be one of them unless it's a reprint from an old one he's done. But I've got a feeling it's one of these ones he's done. There's 12 he's done in 2016. But this is Uncanny Avengers, Volume 3, Issue 11. So it's from September 2016. They did about 30 issues of this, running from 2015 to 2018. So we're sort of halfway through this sort of the actual thing, but the battle in it is quite good. If you don't love your Age of Ultron sort of stuff in Marvel, you'll love this, especially from the film. But basically, it starts off in the middle of a fight between Ultron, who has taken Hank Pym's DNA and has used it on himself. So he's got like Hank Pym's DNA features and face and a lot underneath Ultron. So he's trying to make himself as human as possible. And he's fighting Deadpool, Vision, Janet Van Dyne, who's the Wasp, and Captain America. So they're all having a battle in this comic, and it's nice for it to start off like that. It's like, ooh, a variant strain. Ooh, a nice little battle here. This is like Age of Ultron without Thor in it and all them lot. Meanwhile, on the Mutra Nebula, you got Captain Marvel is fighting a giant space octopus. She gets a call from Earth from Vision. So Vision's sort of as he's fighting away, gives off a digital message to Captain Marvel to come back down to Earth to help them fight. And that's only the sort of vision you get of Captain Marvel in this comic. But I'm assuming that's what the Uncanny Avengers is. It's like the modern day Avengers. But yeah, for us to see her sort of fight a giant space octopus, I'm like, okay, this is a bit uncanny. You know, it's like it goes with the comic title. You sort of think, fair enough. You know. So as that's going on, it cuts back to Earth. And the battle rages on, and Ultron's sort of winning against Vision and Deadpool, and he's nearly killing Deadpool at the same time. And just as Deadpool's about to lose the battle, who pops up but Quicksilver and Rogue. So they turn up to help, and then Wasp uses an EMP, which they should have done in the film, to shut down Ultron. After the battle, they try and get Hank Pym out the Ultron suit to realise that it's 100% Ultron. He's just that he's taken his DNA. And then they find out Hank Pym, from a little conversation they have with Ultron, that he's lost in space. And then Ultron starts a battle again, as he always does. It's sort of like, well, I'll distract him to regain my powers, and then I'll have a little battle with him. And at that time, as they're in the middle of having another battle, Iron Man turns up in the Hulkbuster. The Hulkbuster is at the end of this comic, and he just turns up and goes, right, I'm here to finish you boys off now, come on, you know. So it's nice to sort of get that little view of it all, and a little Uncanny Avengers, they all turn up to a point, apart from the Hulk and the Thor and Black Widow and Hawkeye and things like that. But we've already discovered that with the films, is that you don't know if all the Avengers will turn up, hence like Uncanny Avengers, you know. But yeah, it's nice to sort of have one of his covers. I'm quite happy, and as I said, I'm really happy that I can find this information regarding the actual comic book artists themselves. Like I said, when I do discover it, I want to find out as much information as I can. So understanding how they've worked at Marvel, especially the older guys who've been there for years, and they're sort of touring the US and worldwide as well, apparently. We get to sort of find out more about what the views were, what it was like working for Marvel during the back in them days, and for them to produce so excellent comic covers like that, and storylines as well. So not only do the comics, do the covers, they get involved with the storylines as well. So Go Spider-Gwen. This is something we've been doing since December, January time. We did our first ever episode of the Archiving Show, the Comic Archiving Show. So this is something we've been unboxing live. This and Captain Marvel. So I've got the other Captain Marvel one here, but we're going to do Ghost Spider-Gwen. Now, for those of you who like Marvel Rising, and this is something I've had a look at today, as it sprung into my head when I saw someone's name on Twitter. I'm like, oh yeah, might look at this person sort of thing. But for those who remember Marvel Rising, you'll know an actress called Dove Cameron. Now, she was originally in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as one of the baddies in Season 5, playing a young Hydra sort of operative, sort of future sort of villain sort of thing. And she voices Spider-Gwen in the Marvel Rising TV shows. And for those who love it, it's based on Ghost Spider. This is what I found out today. It's based on Ghost Spider. So for me, having to review Ghost Spider for the past 6 months, 7 months now, it's been nice to sort of go, oh, Dove Cameron, I quite like watching her on a few Marvel things and things like that. Understanding Ghost Spider like this. So this is what this is based on. And it's nice to sort of see it. I want to see if I can get hold of Marvel Rising on Blu-ray and DVD. I wouldn't mind watching it. I've still not watched the Spider-Verse yet, so that's something I want to have a look at. But basically, this is issue 8, volume 1. This is something they've gone from Spider-Gwen to turn into Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider. So they've gone from volume 1 from volume 2 of them to volume 1 to going into this to coincide, I'm thinking, of the Marvel Rising TV shows. So it starts off this with Harry Osborn waiting outside Oscorp for Spider-Gwen after she stopped a robbery in a previous issue, in issue 7. They then meet up outside. She changes from Spider-Gwen to Gwen Stacy because everyone knows her identity. It's very public. They all know who she is. And they go in to see Elsa Brooke. But as they go in and they speak to reception, they find out that she's not on the system. So they're like, okay, where is she? You know, she was going to use her to sort of help her and help them sort of find out what's going on and that. So after searching the labs for her, Gwen Stacy goes back home to try and find her online and use the internet. However, she's halted by Mary Jane. She turns up and wants to sort of band practice before they have a gig to remind, oh, we've got a gig later on. Let's do a bit of band practice. So they go off, do a bit of band practice, and then after the band practice, she goes off, eats some corn dogs, and then goes off to hit some criminals. So it's something Gwen Stacy does quite a bit, you know, corn dogs and hit some villains. But this time, it's a bit of a strange thing in this comic. Now, as she goes into fighting these criminals, and in this first sort of instance, you get her sort of getting a bit angry, and she starts turning in the face into Gwenom again, which is a strange thing to see. I read it as oh my god, she's going back into Gwenom, but only partly. So you see her fighting back, and she's telling them not to steal things from people because we're stealing TVs and things like that. However, she finds out as she's fighting them, it's getting a bit harder to fight them, and she's losing a bit of physical strength and things like that. So as she's done that, she flies away, leaving the criminals to think that is she a hero or is she a monster, sort of thing in this comic. At this time, as a treat by one of Man-Wolf's gang, sort of doctors or something like that, they end up finding little spider sort of thingies on them. So that's like, it's hard to explain it. It's like how Venom has these, what do you call it, Simpsonites things. Spider-Gwen has these spider mites, I suppose you call them. And they find them on these villains as they sort of go away. So every time she changes, these spider mites come out and change her with her. So people aren't, I'm not sure if that's to do with the Gwenom effect and when she had the experience of being Gwenom, or if it's something that's passed on from there. But it seems to me they've yet to finish with the Gwenom experience. It's going to be like a link to the Gwenom sort of thing. But basically, they take a sample of it and take it back to Man-Wolf's lab. Now, meanwhile, Gwen Stacy is still thinking over the fight. She's sweating the spiders and remembering that she has a big gig later on with Mary Jane. So, as in the middle of the drumming session in this gig on stage, she hears Spider's senses start kicking in. And in that, she spots there's a bomb on the top of the stage. She's like, oh my god, I've got to sort of go off, hence the cover. You got the cover like that. So she spots the bomb. She turns into Spider-Gwen and tries to cover it with all the spider webs sort of thing, all the thing. Hoping it'll work. It doesn't. And the arena roof just caves in and traps them when it explodes. And the people in America... So you just see at the end of the comic, Mary Jane and the rest of the gang just lying on the floor into the rubble and that. So that's basically the comic. Now, this has been an interesting one. We're on issue 5. So, volume 11, issue 5. There's a bit of a unsureness to what volume this is supposed to be. Is it volume 10, volume 11? For me, I like it to see it as a volume 11 more than anything. I'll have to look back and see what the other volumes are like and how many volume issues that are in each volume. Then I can get a sense of whether or not it's the right volume number for this or it's volume 10. But it's something I might change later on, but we'll see. But basically, this follows a fight between Rogue and Nuclear Man. So you got Rogue in this from, you remember the X-Men and the Rogue and X-Men? You got Rogue in this. So this is where Captain Marvel got absorbed by Rogue and became Rogue herself, but with Marvel powers or Captain Marvel powers. So that's what was going on, and I was like, whoa, that's strange. Because we all know Rogue's powers of absorbing people's powers, sort of thing. But for her to absorb Captain Marvel, who's a Kree, into her body of form, and just turning into Rogue, but with the powers of that's just awesome thinking. So that's what happens. Carol returns to her Marvel self after all that lot. This is at the start of it. She becomes she sort of becomes her normal self, and he ends up capturing Nuclear Man. As the battle ends, Carol notices something wrong with Som, who is actually Nuclear Man's son. Originally, Nuclear Man wanted to kidnap Captain Marvel in this comic to become his wife, sort of thing. It was like that, you know. First off, he kidnapped a reporter, thinking she's going to come after him and all that lot. Instead, she turned up with She-Hulk and a few others. There's a lot of different characters from the Marvel Universe in this, including Captain America, Iron Man, and Rhodey, who she's dating again. Which is strange because there's a bit of a gap in comics with Captain Marvel where she's not dating Rhodey. And it's like, oh, I thought he died, you know, in the comics sort of thing. Oh no, he's back. Wow, what's happened here? So it's like a nice little refresher for all the series has been. So yeah, anyway, they notice something's wrong with Som, who's Nuclear Man's son. And he's glowing, so they think he is the bomb because there was an issue with Nuclear Man storing a nuclear bomb somewhere. It turns out he's put it in his son. So Rogue decides to absorb Som, and the barrier that the Nuclear Man set up around it is starting to turn into a wasteland. And the barriers that Som sets around New York, turning it into a bit of a wasteland and all that lot. She-Hulk decides she's getting her powers regained, so does Hazmat. And so they decided to bash down the barriers as they got the powers back because the actual barriers were restricting Hazmat's and She-Hulk's powers as they got moved into the actual zone sort of thing. So as it coming up to the end of the fight, it's sort of bringing down the barriers. Nuclear Man does a nuclear punch to the ground to try and sort of free himself from Carol and Rogue. But Carol uses her powers again to bring him back down again, and then you see the whole of Roosevelt Island back to normal. It was like, wow, that's completely brought down the barriers to it all. So it's been a strange comic, it has, with this sort of Nuclear Man sort of episode and that. But for something they brought back from the 1970s, 1974, I think he's in one of the comics there. It's nice to sort of see him sort of reappear in a Captain Marvel comic straight after the film. It's like, wow, you know, this could be the second Captain Marvel film. You don't know. It's something that could happen. But yeah, however, as it all hits the news with Carol's photos in the paper and that, someone else is planning a phase 2, which leads to the War of the Realms in the next issue. So this is the end of the Nuclear Man story for now in this comic, issue 5. So the first 5 issues are to do with Nuclear Man and Roosevelt Island being turned into a wasteland. This is what it is, but it's all to do with mirages and things like that. So yeah,